Learn to be super successful. Subscribe to my channel, Meathead.
Other question? Yes, sir.
Mr. Peña, you said, going back to ethnicities, you said, okay, don't do business with Russians, but I lived in Russia for 3 years and I had some little experience with them. So I'm sure, I don't know when, I will be back to Russia at some time in my life. And when the war ends, what kind of opportunities would there be?
Oh, big. But the biggest opportunities are now.
Now? So would you recommend to go to Russia now?
Well, no. I mean, we've had guys in the last 4 or 5 months. The way the system works now is you have to be invited. You have to have an invitation to go into business in Russia, which means somebody in Russia has to sponsor you.
Yeah, but I already have it.
Okay, well, then if you already have it, then you should be, or not you should, you can be one of the rare individuals that has an opportunity to roll up, bid on the assets that Western civilized companies are getting rid of. As there's 13,000 companies being sold by Western companies in Russia. 13,000. My group, we've isolated 11. And we're in discussions with 3 of the 11 to buy. But because we put together a consortium, and I like the word consortium because nobody really knows what the fuck that means, but I've been using this for 40, 50 years. We have some, in addition to myself, we have some big fucking hitters on our board, our team, and our board is 19, I think, people, all of which are high profile in Europe, Russia, and the United States, but that we have transacted business there. And I've transacted business there back in the 90s. These other kids, like yourself, have transacted business in the last 5 or 10 years. I haven't. And we're going after those. And it's a process of elimination. Not everybody's going to love seller finance. But we're closing in on December 31. And many of the companies whenever Putin started in February or March, whatever it was, have been told, get it off the fucking balance sheet by the end of the year. I don't give a fuck what you got to do. So we're there with rubles, shekels, euros, pounds, and dollars to buy these companies, just like it happened in the 90s. And I missed that boat. Even though 30 years ago I wasn't stupid, young, or naive, but I was making so much money someplace else that to fuck with the Iron Curtain countries, as they were called, I didn't want to fuck with them. But now I got plenty of time. 13,000 companies. That's unbelievable. And we've only isolated low-hanging fruit. I tell you, kids, and I recommend strongly, low-hanging fruit first. The girl next door, she leaves her window open. That's low-hanging fruit. And so 11 companies, in our judgment, are low-hanging fruit. We get 1 or 2 of the 11. We're talking about $50 billion. Better than a poke in the eye with a sharp stick. We only get 1 of them. We only get half of 1 of them. But that's the first 11. For in January, we're expanding our horizon another 16 or 17. Some of the Western companies have said, okay, you got 2 years to get out of this. We're after the ones that have said, you got to get out of it this year. And we're already focusing on or aligning our efforts towards the ones that have given them 2 or 3 years to get out. But there's no need to rush after, depending on how you look at it. There's no need to rush after them. They're probably going to still be there. Because when you went to school, if you had a test on Friday, you didn't start studying until Thursday, right? If you've got 2 years to get rid of the motherfucker, you're not going to really be pressured to get rid of it now. So we're after the few companies that have been given to the end of December, which is, 5 weeks away. And we're on those like stink on shit. And God love Simon the Bell. I mean, he's a polished guy, and he's not the only guy that I have that does big deals, but he's the only guy that is willing to have publicity. Because not everybody wants publicity. As Sally would tell you, they want the money, they don't want the notoriety. And in Sally's opinion, she could be right, it's because they're not paying taxes. And they don't want the inland revenue or whatever the taxing agency is chasing them. I can't verify that, but it could be true. And since we pay taxes, I don't give a shit. Sally and I have always paid taxes. We pay U.S. taxes and U.K. taxes. And most of the kids I've had that try to avoid taxes, not all, but almost all have gotten in trouble. Almost all of them. Not all of them. There's a couple more cagey than the others. But I wouldn't put my money on a group like this. Most of you will get caught if you don't pay taxes. It may not be in year 1, year 3, or year 5, but you're going to get caught. And I don't want to live my life always looking over my shoulder. Some of you think it's exciting or James Bond kind of bullshit. But at some juncture, you don't want to, especially at my age, I don't give a fuck. I'll pay taxes. And I'm not happy I pay taxes, but I pay them. Other question? Yep. Yes, sir.
So at the beginning of this week, you said it would be a transformative week.
Yes.
And I'm sure we can all agree it has surely been that. And the other piece that I gleaned from you this week, Mr. Peña and David, was clarity. Clarity. And the personal foundation, step number 1. On September 5th, 2005, my dad died. I was 14 years old. And 2 weeks before then, he was on hospice. And my mom had come in, and he was unresponsive at that point, could just basically shake his head, nod his head. And she had leaned over. I was in the kitchen. So I was within an earshot, and she asked my dad, she said, "Michael, do you want Hunter to be here when you die?" And I was peering across, looking to see. And I could see the back of my dad's head shift mechanically left and right. So he was saying no. Well, fast forward 2 weeks on the night that before he died, the hospice nurse came in and said, "I'll be surprised if he makes it past midnight." And me being naive back then, not much has changed. I kissed him on the forehead and I said, "I'll see you tomorrow, Dad." And I went home. Half an hour later, my phone rang. "Hunter, your dad is gone." For 17 years, I have been wondering why my dad didn't want me to be there when he died. And it was only during this week, Mr. Peña, that I found that reason out, and it hit me like a fucking ton of bricks. It was because my dad didn't want his son to see him die with regrets. Do you have any idea how powerful that is and how much that means to me?
I do know, yeah.
And so that gives me immense clarity moving forward, because now I know how my story will end. Because I will be damned if my son sees me die with regrets. And Mr. Peña, had I not come here, I can say beyond a shadow of a doubt, I would not know that answer. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. I've told you I've given 19 eulogies in the last few years. I'm told I'm a world-class eulogy guy. Now 14 of the 19, they were still coherent when I went to see him at the hospital or at the hospice. And what kind of story? I mentioned part of this a couple of days ago. And they said, "You know how to do it, Dan. Tell the truth." And a couple of them say, "Try to make me look better than I was." Okay, fine. But they all have regrets. And with one or two exceptions, their regrets were the things they didn't do. The things they didn't do. They didn't accomplish. They didn't take seriously enough. And almost all the things that I wanted to do, I have done. With the blessing and the support of Sally, and now I'm at a stage where a lot of my buddies are dying, and Sally's mother and brother are very sick and soon to die, but we all have regrets. And a couple of you in this room said you had no regrets on your paperwork, which is horseshit. If I asked you to fill out the paperwork again, I'm almost positive that you would answer the paperwork differently now. But you can't go through life without regrets. The closest I've come to in recent years with kids with no regrets are the 12, 13, and 14-year-olds. Josh didn't have any regrets when I met him. He's got a few now, and a couple of the 13 and 14-year-olds. Michael, the Carling's kid, doesn't really have any regrets. He wishes his parents would allow him to get started 2-3 years earlier. Well, that's not much of a regret. When you're 14, it's a big regret. But I mean, it's, what are you going to start at 8 or 9? But I mean, the Goomba brothers, Tony's son, who's been listening to me the last 3 or 4 years, and he listens to me on the way to school every morning. But we all have regrets, and as do I. But you can go through your life and never do anything about the regrets. Several people that have gone through the seminar over the years take the money that they made, or they create wealth beyond their generational wealth to try to change the world. Try is the operative word, because the world is beyond change. But anyway, that's my own personal opinion. But you don't have to die with the same regrets that you had when you got here. That's the point. You don't have to. And if you do, it's shame on you. It's not, it's not shame on the system. It's not shame on the world. And it's certainly not shame on me. In the first 5 or 6 or 8 years of the program, as Sally would attest to, I thought that I could control, what you regretted. I now know better than that. I can't. Because I'm not with you every day. And please believe me, I don't want to be with you every day. But you have the basic tools. In fact, you have more than the basic tools to change, in some cases, maybe humanity. But don't worry about fucking humanity. Just worry about yourself. Make the changes for you, And to the extent that you're massively successful, like a Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk, then you can use that power, that thrust, to change other parts of the world. Hitler changed the world in the wrong way. Mahatma Gandhi changed the world arguably in a good way. So there's a bunch of role models, out there to look at. Some people think that the QLA system takes advantage of the weakness of the system. It takes advantage of the Achilles heel of human nature. And so those people don't think that I've helped the world. Whereas other people say, I've created, a couple $1 trillion for people like yourself. Nobody special. And, a couple $1 trillion is arguably, changed the planet. And I'm not just getting started, I'm at the end of my runway, but I've still got a number of years, and I'm going to continue to do this. And and time's running out, not just for me, but for yourself. You see kids that did this at 13, 14, 15, 17. And we all know we were fucking around, not doing this kind of thing. And our role models, as my dad would say, for me, is to keep Danny alive. And we pushed that to the envelope because I did a lot of crazy shit. But the fact is, as I haven't given up on David, my dad didn't give up on me. And there was plenty of opportunities for my dad to give up on me. High-profile cop, CIA, all this shit, getting thrown in jail. Not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4 times, but 5 or 6 times. Can you imagine how fucking embarrassing that was for him? He never mentioned it. Never once. Just like when we were out for that drink and that woman at the end of the bar, they never mentioned it. I asked my dad for advice twice while he was alive. And he gave me sage advice, had nothing to do with business. And other than those 2 times, I never asked him his opinion. And the great thing about my dad is he never gave me his opinion unless I asked those 2 times. Most of your parents have an opinion about where you are. Most of your parents either don't like or like what you're doing. I never knew, and we were standing under the chandelier, standing right there, and I had my dad around my arm around my dad. He looked up, just tell me it's not drugs. Because he couldn't conceive of the wealth I amassed if it wasn't drugs. And as if you've heard on YouTube, Dad, it's kind of like drugs, it's oil and gas. And he said, good, But he was so uncomfortable being here, he left after 4 or 5 days. He came for 3 weeks, and he left after 4 or 5 days. He was more comfortable playing golf with my head of security, Chris Frith. He was more comfortable going out for a beer with my state manager than he was, being around me, because it was so out of his comfort zone. I took him to a couple of meetings in London, high-powered meetings, and he sat back in the corner, and we'd be walking to the limo to go to lunch or dinner, and he said, was it a bluff? Yeah. Mankind's weak. He saw through the model instantly. Was it a bluff? Other question? Yes, sir. David.
Yeah. So we've all watched these videos from home, right, guys? And I'm sure 5, 10, 15 fucking guys are going to line up here after me to say thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Peña. Every time I've ever met you, every time I've ever spoken to you, I've said thank you. And, I sit in that chair and I try to fucking dream up a new way to really express how I feel about you. And I can just put it down to this. Thank you for being consistent. Thank you for being a true example of what a man should be. And that is fucking rare in this world, honestly. And, we all fucked it. Every single one of us, all of us. And how you can sit there and see through us, see for us, and fucking stand for us, to me, it's fucking everything. And when I did find you 2-3 years ago, I was probably at the lowest fucking point of my life. And however the fuck I'm built, I shouldn't have even been there, but I was there. And you gave me a path, you gave me a way. And I don't know, like I don't even know if I ever have the words, if I really will ever get it to you. I don't even know if you really need it. I don't think you do. But I'll say it on behalf of every fucking single person in this fucking room, all the fucking 1,000 viewers, the 1 million people that you've touched. You are the fucking greatest man that I've ever fucking met in this life. Better than anyone I've ever fucking met. And
Thank you.
we're so grateful. And I'm gonna my fucking Thank you, Mr. Peña.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. It amazes me that some people still think you're actors. Can you imagine all the money I would have to spend over all these years of the seminars to bring in actors? I could have brought in bigger, better looking people than you. I mean, but and of course, our Cat and EJ are the ones that get the brunt of the criticism, although they share some of the criticism with you. I'm sure they don't share all of it. But I mean, I still enjoy it. That's not a challenge anymore because I could do this in my sleep in a coma. But I'm so happy I didn't retire in January 2020 because you kids have gazillions since then. And the economy and the world and all that has gone our way. Unfortunately, for a lot of the world, it hasn't gone their way. And because I don't suffer from empathy, sympathy, or self-pity, if the guys don't get on the bus or the girls don't, fuck them. I don't care. What I do care is my flock that I've trained, and whether you just make a little or a lot, you still make me proud because I've changed your life. And then it's up to you to change, if you want. No pressure, I don't give a shit. But to the extent that you want to change other lives, that's great. My experience is, after 29 years, the guys that have made the most money, not just the 20 or 25% that are on the Hall of Fame, at some juncture decide it's not worth changing the world. I'm not suggesting that should be your decision. But the world is fucked because the world is fucked. We got 3 or 4 or 5 billion more people than we need. I'm not suggesting we have a program of euthanasia where we all give everybody shots to kill them, or we just got too many people. We wouldn't be worried about water and all this other stuff. And my dad's infinite wisdom, he said, Dan, the longer you live, the more you'll realize that how screwed up the planet is. Now he was talking about criminals, and because he always looked at, because he was he was in law enforcement, CIA, that for 45 years, and so he had a low opinion of the general morality of the world. Although he did soften up in his 80s, so I'm not sure I'll soften up in my 80s, but he did. And Sally would comment on it when we used to go visit him, and I think your dad's getting soft. And he would, his opinion, when you're 88, 89, 90, your opinion changes. And his taste for chocolate and cake, sweets, increased as he got older. And he didn't have as many bad things to say about humanity toward the end of his life, which I'm not sure that'll happen with me. But you do seem to block out, according to my 100-year-old aunts, who Sally is met, there's no way you could define my growing up as being angelic. I don't give a fuck if you're blind, deaf, dumb, and blind. I was not an angelic child. Yet, my 98, 95, 101, 102-year-old aunts all thought towards the end of their life I was. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen to me. All of a sudden I get delusional because I plan on giving these seminars, irrespective of politics, next year, not as many, but still doing it until I officially throw my hat in the ring for my political endeavors, and I'm pretty positive that I'll win. But again, I told you a couple of days ago, I plan on filming the last 4 or 5 seminars that I give, and from the beginning to the end, and putting them online and for posterity. I've been approached 6, 7 times, at least, from promoters that want to package my deal, and me to pass the baton off to them, but they're all Shylock thieves, and so I'm not going to do that. So I'll put it free online. But again, it's not the same as being here, as you well imagine. It's not the same as the anecdotes and the stories, but it'll be for posterity. And but until I decide to do that, and my health is still good, I'm going to continue to do it.